Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's edition of the Sunday Wire. I'm your host, Patrick Henningsen. We're streaming out live on the Alternate Current Radio Network and also at 21stcenturywire.com. Welcome to our viewers on X. We're also streaming out live on our Facebook page as well as YouTube and Rumble and BitChute as well this week. Great to have everybody with us. We have a very special broadcast for you today, and we'll bring up our guest in just a moment. We've got a lot of ground to cover. A lot has happened in this week, and we'll cover most of this, and then we'll also get a chance in the Overdrive segment to look at some of the other issues. Syria has opened up another front in Idlib. We've got quite a bit of information and updates in that department as well. So a lot going on. Hopefully we'll bring on some of our regular guests during Overdrive to comment on that and the domestic situation in the United States. So I want to bring on the stage now, without further ado, a very special guest. I don't think he's been on this show for a very long time, maybe when we were on the audio format. Gerald Celente from Trends Research joining us on the live link. Gerald, it's an absolute pleasure to have you.
Well, thanks so much for having me. Thank you for all that you do.
And Gerald, I was really inspired by the incredible event that you hosted in your hometown not long ago. Scott Ritter spoke. You had a number of great speakers there. The whole point, and I know this is an issue that you're very passionate about, is the anti-war issue, the pro-peace issue. I just want to say congratulations on a successful event, but Gerald, it is so tough. It is so tough, especially with what's happened in the last couple of months, to get some progress on this issue. We have the transition from the Biden administration to the Trump administration. How are you feeling about all this right now, Gerald?
Well, it's terrible what's going on. You know, the movement, by the way, that Scott Ritter was here, Judge Napolitano, Joe Lauria, and others, is called Occupy Peace. And I launched this movement over a decade ago. So, you know, I'm totally against the wars going on. And peace is a dirty word. You're not allowed to talk about peace. You're banned from all the Western media. They have nobody on the major media speaking about peace. And you go to the Wall Street Journal, you go to one article after another, and barely a word of the genocide going on, barely a picture of the destruction going on in Gaza, and is going on for what? Since October 7th, 2023. According to Lancet, nearly 200,000 people have died, not the numbers that they're putting out. The whole place is being demolished. And where is the outrage? No outrage. You got a little arrogant boy, a murderer of the first degree, Netanyahu, comes to America, talks to Congress, and the little boys and girls, the pieces of political crap, stand up and give them what? Over 50 standing ovations. That's America. And stealing our money to give them the weapons of death to keep this going. And then the same thing in Ukraine. And now Biden's ramping that up with sending the long-range missiles. No outrage. No outrage at all. You know, I have a sign out in front of me. I just put up a Christmas sign, and it says peace. And I'm saying to myself, what a joke. No peace. Nobody talks about peace. This is probably the only peace sign up here.
And Gerald, I know you've been on many people's programs. You've interviewed people as well. People who used to engage in something called diplomacy. And I know this is sounds like an arcane, far off concept. We don't see a whole lot of it today. Why don't we see that practice of international relations, that practice of diplomacy, Gerald?
Because of what this T-shirt that we have at trendsjournal.com says. You see that?
Yeah.
All right. All right. Look at the little clown boys running the show. Look at that. The big, major story coming out. Boris Johnson says We need to do more to secure Ukraine and help them defeat Russia. Boris Johnson, a little clown boy that the best cartoonist in the world could not come up with a more stupid-looking freak of a jerk than that little piece of nothing. I got to hear the crap spewing out of his mouth. Oh, no, the little Catson Macron, yeah, with the fake hair and who knows what he is or this or that. More weapons. Look at the jerks running the show. Out of his mind, Biden. By the way, it's the Trends Journal. The Trends Research is the company that we put out a weekly magazine, the Trends Journal. This week was over 200 pages. Nothing is being reported that we're reporting in the major media. We have a whole section of the Israel war, whole section of the Ukraine war. None of this is being reported. And what we do as trend forecasters, we subscribe to Haaretz, the Israeli newspaper. Want to hear what they have to say? Go to the Jerusalem Post, go to Times of Israel. Oh, they hate you for this. We go to ISNA, IRNA, Press TV, and Tehran Times. We want to hear what the Iranians have to say. Oh, and we go to Arab News. We go to Al Jazeera. We want to hear what the Arabs have to say. They don't do that in the media. You're banned. You're asking what's going on. You've got a bunch of freaks running the show. The cover of our magazine, one of them, when the election was going on, Walt Disney White House, presidential reality show, Minnie Mouse versus Donald Duck. We got 345 million people in this country, and this is what they give you? That's it? It's a freak show. And by the way, I was the assistant to the secretary of the New York State Senate. Worked on major political campaigns in Westchester County, the richest county in America. Oh, I got a picture of me when I picked up Ronald Reagan at the Chicago Hilton and put on a brunch for 16 of our board of directors when I was 30 years old. I've been with presidents, prime ministers, and princes. I've been on the other side. They're little gutless clowns. When you call these guys out man to man, they don't know whether to piss or shit. They're little nothings. But, oh, no, they're your leaders. Follow your leader. Follow your leader. All right, you ask me why it's going on. It's a freak show, and the freaks are running the show.
As you've brought up the former British Prime Minister, this clip just drifted onto the internet today. I want to play this. It's quite extraordinary, considering everything that we've had to endure the last almost going on 3 years. Here's Boris Johnson.
We are, let's face it, we're waging a proxy war. We're waging a proxy war, but we're not giving our proxies the ability to do the job. And for years and years now, we've been allowing them to fight with one hand tied behind their backs, and it has been cruel. It has been cruel, and we need now to give them what they need.
Gerald, it wasn't long ago that you were called a Russian disinformation purveyor if you said the word proxy war. If you made the observation that NATO is fighting a proxy war against Russia on Ukrainian soil, and there he is after 3 years. Finally, it's safe to say it, Gerald. This is how our consensus media works, I guess.
Yeah. Again, look at that little clown. Look at that fat little clown boy. Anybody that supports war, hey, fat mouth, go over there and fight. Yeah, go over there and fight, Boris. Well, you're so fat you couldn't fight your way out of a paper bag. They wouldn't make one big enough for you. Look at the clown. The best cartoonist in the world could not come out with a freakier little piece of crap than that piece of scum. And again, you call that guy out man to man. Oh, don't you talk to me like that. Oh, I'll have you arrested. Yeah, these are the little freaks. Oh, you got that guy Starmer now? Look at a little nothing.
Well, the point I think that needs to be raised here, that I think is lost on a lot of people in the United States, with all the election fervor and in Europe as well, is that they're not actually at war with Russia. That we're giving the Ukrainians everything they need to fight. We're giving them all the weapons they need, and we're giving them permission to fire the missiles into Russia now. That's how it's being framed, Gerald. That's how we're meant to see this this conflict. But that's not exactly what's happening, is it?
Again, you know, people, we used to say in the Bronx, people don't know dick about shit. You had the elections here in the United States. Less than, it seems like 6% of the people said global affairs was a major issue. All right? They don't know what's going on. They could care less. How much does a dozen eggs cost? Or did Taylor Swift get laid last night? You know, Ben Affleck had Thanksgiving with his wife. What are you telling me this crap for? That's the meat. There is no journalism anymore. It's dead, gone. Hey, AP just fired what? 8% of its staff or something? Every one, BBC, one after another, all firing people. There's no journalism left. And look at those little clown girl and boy interviewing Boris Johnson. You think they'd have anybody on there talking about peace? I want to make this clear. You know, I have best-selling books. Trends 2000, Trend Tracking, Far Better Than Megatrends. I used to be on Oprah, The Today Show, Good Morning America. And when USA Today was a big newspaper, they used to run our top trends every year. And you can look it up. We put them out in December for the new year. December 2000. 2001 won't be our year, Trendseer says. I warned that a wave of anti-Americanism was sweeping the globe and Americans wouldn't be safe at home or abroad. Then, 9/11. Yep. Everybody has me on the media. Again, I used to be on Oprah, The Today Show. Everybody. What happened? What happened? I said, look what America's doing. Madeleine Albright, or not all that bright, the former UN, America's ambassador to the United Nations, on the show at Leslie Stahl, 60 Minutes. Leslie Stahl asks Madeleine Albright, is the death of 500,000 Iraqi children under the age of 5 worth the price because of what Bill Clinton has done? And she said, it's worth the price. You forgot about the Yugoslav war or the Kosovo war? Oh, the slaughter going on about the Palestinians? Again, as we say in the Bronx, payback's a bitch. So we saw 9/11 happening. They asked me about this, and I said what's going on. Why, how dare you say that? And then the Afghan war. We're going to get that guy Osama bin Laden dead or alive. 90% of the people swallowed the crap spewing out of the mouth of that little daddy's boy with a pair of cojones smaller than a mothball, George Bush. So now I'm on all the media. What's going to happen? I said, listen, if Alexander the Great couldn't beat the Afghans, if the British at the height of the British Empire into the Valley of Death rode to 600, they couldn't beat them. If Russia couldn't beat them, and Russia was the first one to beat the Germans in World War II, despite losing 25 million people, what makes you think America's going to defeat the Afghans? We haven't won a war since World War II. And again, we won that without Russia. Lost the Vietnam War, lost the Korean War. I said, what makes you think we're going to win this war? Why? How dare you say that? How dare you say that? You're anti-American. That's the crap. I got blacklisted from everybody. Everybody. I didn't get back in the media until I came out with the forecast, the Panic of 08. I took the domain name out in 2007. When it comes to money, they want to hear what you got to say. When it comes to peace, they could give a damn.
So, Gerald, America goes to the polls on November 5th. Haven't really spoke about the election with you. What in your mind, Gerald, as you're viewing it from your unique perspective, like analytical perspective, your other perspectives, what happened on November 5th? Go ahead.
Yeah, the people were disgusted with the ruling class of the current, but it's one big club. It's a uniparty, but they were disgusted with the the conditions of the country economically. And again, we got it wrong. We go by data. You look at the midterm elections in America. Inflation was at 9%, 2022. Biden's poll ratings were in the toilet. The Republicans didn't do well in the midterm elections because of one issue, abortion. It's a fact, only by the numbers. We thought that would be another issue. And again, we go by the data. The Michigan studies for consumer confidence was at a 4-year high just before the election and up 4 months in a row. But the people are disgusted with what's going on with immigration, with the woke stuff, and they can't afford to buy things. Here, the data. You have, once upon a time, new home buyers, 40% of them, people buying a home for the first time. Now it's down to 27%. That's the other reason why, by the way, they want all the immigrants to come here, because you go to any of the big chains, Marshalls, Target, any of them, you walk in and there's a sign on the front door, help wanted, help wanted, help wanted. They want cheap labor coming in because you can't live in what these chains are paying people to work. So the people were disgusted with the economic system. And there's that old saying, it's the economy, stupid. And that's what it was about. So the working class is suffering, and that's why Trump won. And by the way, the media calls it the people going to the far right. It wasn't far right. It had nothing to do with that at all. It's not far right. This used to be a lot of what used to be a Democratic Party. But what's going to happen, as we see it, is a guessing game. Will Trump live by his words and deeds, or will it be just more BS? Because when you look back to when he first got elected, and by the way, we were the first magazine back then in 2016, in May, the Trends Journal called him a winner. He promised 3 things: build a wall, fix our third world rotted infrastructure, and lower taxes. The only thing he did was lower taxes. And according to the Tax Policy Center, the 1% got 64% of the tax benefits. So now that he's brought in Musk and what they're saying about, getting rid of these government jobs, which I totally agree with. I hate bureaucrats. Bureaucrats are the lowest pieces of crap. They can't get a job in the real world, and they become the most arrogant. I call them bureaucrats. And is he going to use the tariffs? Or is that just talk? So again, we got to see. We have to see what's going to happen. And he also said he's going to end the Ukraine war when he's in office within 24 hours. That's a quote. How come he has lockjaw now and he's not complaining about Biden ramping up the war? And then on the Israeli front, he's got a total Zionist cabinet in there. Little clown boy, Huckleberry, Huckle Jerk, the clown that used to be the governor of Arkansas, that's the UN ambassador to Israel, said there's no such thing as Palestine. There's no such thing as settlements. Like one after another. So, and what he got? Like hundreds of millions of dollars from the Jewish people. And when he got the $100 million from Sheldon Adelson, he moved the United States Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem and said, hey, that land you stole over there, the Golan Heights, that belongs to Syria, it's yours. So what's Trump going to do on that level? So we don't know. But it looks like on the Israel level, he's going to keep ramping it up. On the Ukraine level, it's a guess.
That sounds like there's some big wagers on the table, and I'm not alone. I think you probably see this as well. If you have a foreign lobby dictating your foreign policy, there is a bigger sort of chance for a major error to occur or a miscalculation to occur that might not be in the interests of anybody other than that lobby. Certainly, people are talking about annexing the West Bank. I cannot tell people what a potential powder keg that might end up being. So if the goal is peace, if the goal is stability in the region, you have to be very careful what sort of policies you're backing, especially now. Would you agree, Gerald, that there's a lot more tension right now than there was in 2016 in the Middle East? I mean,
oh, it's terrible what's going on. It's genocide in front of everybody's eyes. And I'm tired of hearing this crap. You're an anti-Semite. Again, 3 of my last 4 girlfriends were Jewish. My best Jewish friends, they're all opposed to what's going on in Israel. All totally opposed. But you talk about the lobbyists. America, what is it? The Israeli population in America is what, 2.4%? And look at the power they have with AIPAC and all the money that they've given. And then again, I lose subscribers because I'm against the war, and I get emails saying I'm Jewish, I support Israel. That's like me saying I'm Italian, I support Mussolini. No, I'm German, I support Hitler. How stupid can you be? So that's what's going on. They control it. Again, not a word about peace in any of the major media. Totally silenced. Again, they put a little clown boy like Boris Johnson. Who the hell gives a damn what this clown is saying? Who the hell is he? He's a nobody. Oh, another daddy's boy, forgot.
Well, Thanksgiving just passed, Thanksgiving weekend, and I wanted to sort of push out the reminder to people here that the United States still is imposing a policy of starvation on the children of Gaza. And I thought I would highlight this tweet. They all do this, Gerald, on the holidays. Macron, all the American politicians, the Bidens. This is Linda Thomas Greenfield, the ambassador to the United Nations for the U.S. She's showing off her turkey on Thanksgiving this week. But at the same time, as I said here, the U.S. is imposing a policy of starvation on the children of Gaza, a humanitarian disaster, the likes that we have not seen in the modern era. And why do they all do it, Gerald? And the comments are just vicious below these tweets. But all these political leaders, from Ursula von der Leyen to Joe Biden, they all do this. And this sort of, I don't know, signaling, or is this are they torturing us, or is this just complete delusional behavior on the part of this new breed of celebrity politicians? I don't know.
They're out of their mind, arrogant little pieces of scum. End of story. Why is a murderer a murderer, a thief a thief? It's a crime syndicate. They're out of their mind, arrogant little pieces of scum. They use the word celebrity. What's leaders? We don't pee a poo. Get the hell out of here. You're a nobody. Again, I was in the system. They're the low-life pieces of garbage that don't get a job in the real world and suck off the public tit their whole life. You need any more proof? Look at Biden. And again, Trump's nothing more than a daddy's boy. I had lunch with his brother, Robert, back in 2017. I'm up here in Ulster County, across the river is Dutchess County, and he had a restaurant over there in Wassaic. And I spent about 5 hours with him. And he told me that his father, when the father died, left him over $500 million worth of real estate. Trump's nothing more than a spoiled little boy. We're the same age, me and Trump. Matter of fact, my birthday was on Friday. And when I was a kid, I grew up in the Bronx, I was youngest of 5, totally out of control. They used to say, "You little bastard, we had enough of your crap. You're going to military school." I'll be good. I don't want to go to military school. Trump was so arrogant, so narcissistic, they ended up sending him to military school in his teens at a place called Cornwall, New York, which is just about 40 minutes south of where I am up in Kingston, in the middle of nowhere. Now, here you are as a teenager, you're thinking about chicks, sports, cars, whatever. And my mother, may she rest in peace, a great Italian woman, cooked like crazy. I'm going to go to military school, get dressed up in a little costume, went to go to sleep, went to wake up and eat crap, can't go out and play. That's how arrogant Trump was. They sent him to military school. He's so narcissistic. All he cares about is himself. That's the system. All they care about are themselves. And And to call these people leaders, who the hell are you to lead me? I don't need a leader. Nobody's going to lead me. I don't tell anybody what to do. Don't tell me what to do. But that attitude's gone. The fight is gone.
So that's the Trump has assembled what people are calling the Avengers. Robert F. Kennedy, Tulsi Gabbard, former Democrats. He's brought in. He said this is a big tent. Elon Musk, a former Democrat or liberal, he's now conservative. He's in. All of these Vivek Ramaswamy, a lot of dynamic business people, entrepreneurs. Not your typical, I guess, politicians, so they say. So he's assembled this team. But Gerald, how much? And it's a legitimate question because they haven't started governing yet, but there's been a lot of hype. So the bar of expectations very, very high. I think we can agree. Based on what you've seen and what you know about how Washington really works. What do you think the chances of a lot of this hype materializing into actual results? I think it's a fair question. I want to give you the floor on that.
Yeah, it's, as I said, it's a guessing game. You look at the people he brought in. Musk, the richest guy in the world. But again, nobody tells Trump what to do. So that's where it's going to end up. Are they going to, I agree with a number of things that Trump is for. And by the way, I agree with tariffs. Because once upon a time in America, you read McKinley back in the late 1800s, we had tariffs in this country. We didn't have income tax. The government got the money from tariffs. And they, as one of McKinley's words are, do you want cheap products or do you want higher wages? We used to have manufacturing in this country. Now only 11% of our GDP is manufacturing based. And manufacturing brings real middle class earnings. So I agree with that. Yeah, will it be tough in the beginning? Possibly. But again, the dollar would get stronger. And that means you could buy more products and it wouldn't cost as much. So there's an upside and a downside to it. But we have to see what's going to happen. And again, Tulsi Gabbard, they say, she's for peace. Oh, yeah? She calls our greatest fear Islamophobia taking over the world and that we have to support Israel. Kennedy. I spoke to Kennedy twice. I had Dennis Kucinich up here when he was his campaign manager as one of my speakers. And I stopped supporting Kennedy when he came out and said the Palestinians are the most pampered people in the world. And he's totally pro-genocide. And Kucinich quit, and he wasn't the campaign manager anymore either because he's all about peace. So again, some things I agree, some I don't, but it's a guessing game at this point. Will Trump live by his word? And will the people coming in do what they say they're going to do? I'm totally in favor of breaking down big time the government. It is a joke. And by the way, I was on the other side. That's why I know what I know. After I worked in the Senate, when I quit, nobody could believe I was going to quit because I'm not going to grovel my way up to the top. I became a government affairs specialist for the chemical industry. I was killing environmental legislation at the height of the environmental movement back in the 1970s. I was staying at the Willard Hotel in D.C. at 28 years old and putting my meetings on at the Hay Adams, which is right across the street from the White House, top place. And then I started to grow up when I was around 32, and the Iranian conflict broke out, and they taught us to hate Iran. But, of course, people had no idea how the United States overthrew the democratically elected government of Mossadegh in 1953, along with the UK and the CIA to steal their oil because Mossadegh said that oil belongs to the Iranian people, not Anglo-Iranian oil, better known today as BP, or Standard Oil, better known today as ExxonMobil. They overthrew the country, put in the Shah, the Savak, the secret police. Anyway, people had no idea that was going on. That's when I became a political atheist and stopped believing in the system. But I was on the other side. I know what it looks like. I wouldn't know what I know if I wasn't there. So the thing with Trump is, from people that I know that know him personally, Nobody could tell him what to do. He's an egomaniac, and he'll only do what he wants to do. And money talks. So that's what we have to see.
So if you have big personalities that are assembled in your team, and if somebody has a disagreement or someone says something someone doesn't like it, then the tweet goes out. So I think there's a high probability that some of the political superstars that have been assembled in the Avengers might not last past the 12-month mark. But that's politics, Gerald. That's that you have an A team, you have a bench, you have a B team. The B team comes in after 18 months, and this is how Washington works. But there's another thing about Washington, Gerald, which you can shed some light on. Has anybody ever driven into DC in the last couple of years and compared it to how it looked 20 or 30 years ago? And what I've been all around the world, Gerald, and I've seen all types of places in Asia, Europe, in North America. The concentration of wealth in the Beltway is the greatest concentration of wealth in the world. There is more cash and more money focused in that area than anywhere else on the planet. And it is just mind-blowing to watch it and to see the acceleration of this right through Washington, D.C., right out through the surrounding towns, cities, and counties. And where is that money? What is that money, Gerald? What does this have anything to do with lobbyists and cartels? And if so, Elon Musk and Ramaswamy are supposed to start the Department of Government Efficiency, which is really going to be, I believe, a commission like the Grace Commission during the Reagan era, giving recommendations. But that's not an easy nut to crack, is it? Because every federal dollar is somebody's private fiefdom. Yeah. What do you think?
Well, again, look at America. They call this a democracy. It's a democracy. Look at the election. What did Harris raise? Like $2.3 billion? $2.3 billion to run for office, a clown. Kamala hilarious. What did Trump get? He only got $1.2 billion. You can't run for office without any of the money. Again, if the politicians were all Italian, they call it a mafia, all right? That's all it is. The big zone everything. Once upon a time, the story goes, the magazine cover is here somewhere. Let me see if I can find it. One of the past trends journals. And it's not here. Anyway, there was, the story goes that the Prince of Peace became violent and drove the money changers. Here it is. This was the Trends Journal back in 2012. The Prince of Peace became violent and drove the money changers out of the temple. The money changers are running the country. The banks, the bandits. Look who owns the S&P 500. 3 companies. BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street. Look what you have to pay on credit cards. Some of the numbers are up to 39%. Hey, the mafia is charging 10%. 39%. What is the average? Like 22%? And they get away with it. You got a little piece of scum, an arrogant little nothing of a boy with a bad attitude, Bill Clinton. You can hear this guy bullshit for free. But when he speaks to Goldman Sachs gangs, he gets $300,000 an hour. All right? Oh, this is the Bill Clinton that did away with the Federal Communications Act, or brought the NAFTA, sucked out our jobs into Mexico. Oh, brought China into the World Trade Organization, sucked the jobs out of America, went to China, cheap labor. Oh, this is the Bill Clinton killed the Glass-Steagall Act. Mm. So you're asking the rich own the country. We're nothing more than plantation workers of Slavelandia. The middle class is shot. That's why Trump won, because the working class is a starving class. And all the joy's gone. I grew up at the perfect time. I grew up right after the war. The energy of my parents, my aunts and uncles, which is one of my books, by the way, what Zidzi gave Honey Boy. Everything I've written is my favorite. Zidzi's the Neapolitan dialect for auntie. And It's about growing up in the Bronx as an Italian American and what the country used to be and the fun that my aunts and uncles used to have all the time. The holidays were sensational, always laughing, never a word about politics. And now it's all gone. There's a picture of my parents' wedding, 1934. If I can find this real quick here. Here it is. I can see this. But anyway, could you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Look how well dressed they are. My father worked in a fish store. They were laborers. Everybody dressed elegantly. And now it's a freak show. Once upon a time, there was a thing called a Barnum and Bailey circus. Now you don't have to step. They went out of business. You know why? You don't have to step right up, see the fat man, see the tattooed lady, see the lady with the beard. They're out in the street everywhere. Look how this country's gone down. Again, read this week's Trends Journal about the obesity rates. Oh, and they're blaming it on mental. No. Mothers aren't cooking for their kids anymore. They put them in nursing homes for children that people call daycare centers. You're out of your mind when you're a kid and you got a stranger feeding you crap. Your mother's coming home from work. She's feeding you crap. She ain't cooking anymore. My mother used to cook all day long. There was 7 of us. Look what's going on. The obesity rates. By the way, and it's costing us billions and billions and billions of dollars because of the poor health of these people. So I say we should have a fat tax. The more you weigh, the more you pay. Oh, no, take your drugs. Biden wants to give us, we got to pay for their drugs to take drugs so they could lose weight. How about stop eating crap? Oh, by the way, first book I worked on back in the 1980s when hardly anybody was talking about this, natural healing. So it's not just talk, it's action. And I have an honorary doctorate from the National University of Health Sciences for the work I've done in complementary and integrative medicine. Not talked about at all. When the COVID war went on, don't get in good health. Don't build up your immune system. Take this shot. Take this shot. All right?
Yeah, take the shot and get the KFC delivered to your door by DoorDash or Deliveroo.
Yeah.
All those companies exploded. But for trends, Gerald, and you mentioned Glass-Steagall, so I have to ask you this question. That's, by the way, Bill Clinton's great parting gift to the world, one of his last deeds as president, 2-term president. That's a problem that hasn't really been repaired. So I'm going to ask you, Gerald, is there the same type of bubble that is forming right now? And if so, are we in danger of another repeat of what we saw in 2008 along the similar lines in terms of debt bubbles? Go ahead.
The only magazine in the world, the Trends Journal, is talking about what nobody else is. And that's the office building bust. Go by the data. Google up Castle Systems with a K. Put in office occupancy rate. Well, it's moved up a bit. It's up to 53%. According to data, different data, but some of it, the office vacancy rate, meaning nobody there, 24%. There are between, again, the data changes, between $2 to $4 trillion worth of commercial real estate debt coming due over the next 2 years. You have all these vacant buildings. I'm down the city 2 weeks ago. My buddy and I walked, they wanted to do an interview with me at the stock exchange. So we left the stock exchange and we went up to, I got a friend that has a great restaurant, the Tudor City. Up, the name of the restaurant in Tudor City. It's up by 40th and 2nd. We walked all the way up. For rent. Whole blocks. We walked over to 48th Street and Park Avenue. Whole blocks. Retail space for rent. Let's go back. Tracking trends is the understanding of where we are and how we got here to see where we're going. Let's go back to the COVID war. Get back in your house. You can't go to work. All right. People, now they're staying home week after week, month after month, year after year. And they're saying to themselves, I'd be getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to commute an hour and a half each way. I'd be out of my mind. I'm not going to do that anymore. Now, I'm the guy that say I have 12 stories in a building. I got everybody in cubicles. I don't see them anyway. Yeah, stay home a couple of days a week. We don't need you here. I don't need all this office space. I'll make more money. There's going to be defaults on offices, commercial real estate, the likes of which we've never seen before, not repeated, nothing mentioned. The Wall Street Journal came up with a big article this week about how they're converting these empty office spaces into apartments. Total BS. Total. You read to almost the end of the article, it's about 1.7% of the vacant spaces. Buildings built within the last 50 years are non-convertible. Fact. About 3 months ago, an office building on 50th Street, Sports Illustrated used to be there, right in the center of the street. In 2006, it sold for $320 million. It went up for auction. Sold for $8.5 million. Again, the building's in the middle of the street. You don't have windows here, don't have windows there, don't have windows in the back, only in the front. Non-convertible for housing. No one's talking about this. You're going back to the banks. And then look what they did again, how under the Biden administration, they wanted to have banks bigger reserves, and they pulled back on it. They don't have the money to cover these losses. There's going to be trillions of dollars worth of losses. No one is talking about it. And to me, that's going to crash the markets. And then going back to Trump, the guessing game. Will he lower interest rates to keep jacking up the economy? Let's go back to 2018. Oh, December. The NASDAQ was down 9%. The S&P and Dow were down 10%. It was the worst December since the Great Depression in December 1931. What did Trump do? He forced the Fed head, Jerome Powell, to lower interest rates. They lowered them in January 2019. Oh, what happened? Oh, the repo crisis? Oh, we'll forget about that. Don't talk about that. People have no idea. Again, very important. If Trump lowers interest rates, the dollar's going to go down. The deeper the dollar falls, the higher gold prices will go. And then there's the BRICS. They've had enough of America's hegemony, socioeconomic hegemony and geopolitical hegemony. It is going to be the wave of the future. And we're only a country of 345 million people. What does China have? 1.4 billion? You know, again, we're going nowhere. And so that's the beginning. Again, we have to see what's going to happen. But to answer your question, the office building bust is going to cause the banks to go bust.
So then that's begs another question. If the banks go bust, Gerald, last time we bailed the banks out to the tune of trillions of dollars in real money. Eventually, the price tag was quite high, wasn't it? What will happen this time? Ron Paul always said the bad banks should be allowed to fail. That's healthy for the system. And everybody said that was heresy at the time. But looking back, was Ron Paul right?
Of course he's right. I said, yeah, the banksters run the country. Yeah, you see Goldman Sachs, Merrill Lynch, right? It's what will they do? You know what I think they're going to do? They're going to come up with a digital currency. The Russians hacked our banking system. They'll make up something. We're coming out with a digital currency. We only got, when you look at the real debt level, by the way, it's not 36 trillion. It's more like 260 trillion when you put Social Security, everything else into it. They're going to make up something else. Look what happened during the Great Depression. Turn in your gold. You can't own gold. All right. You go to jail if you don't turn it in. It's a crime syndicate running the country. And the banksters, big tech, the drug dealers that people call big pharma, the banksters, and the military industrial complex, they run the country.
Well, those S&P 500 stocks, I'm talking about the big defense contractors. I guess as long as those are healthy and the stock market's looking good, then I guess the politicians are safe at that point. Because isn't that the formula that we've been kind of running off of for a little while now? Is there any incentive to change that? Or in other words, what I'm saying is, do you think the incoming Trump administration and the experts, the new Treasury Secretary, who's getting a lot of press as well, are they going to be able to address the fundamentals, any of these fundamentals, Gerald? And if so, how difficult of a task is that?
It's a difficult task, and we have to see what they're going to do. But there's no way. You talked about how much we bailed out the banks. According to the Levy Institute at Bard College, $29 trillion. As people losing their homes, subprime mortgage scam. Remember that one? Oh, and what does Blackstone buy up all the homes now? And now look how many homes are owned by the venture capitalists and the hedge fund groups. That didn't exist before the panic of 08. Didn't exist. And now they own like 25, 27% or something, the homes. People can't afford to buy homes. So they're going to do what they're going to do. Again, we don't know. And again, by their deeds you shall know them. Their words don't mean anything. And if Trump lives by some of his words, I think it's going to be positive for the economy. And I think the markets will go up again if he lowers interest rates. And, this is the guy, by the way, that people forget. He's the one that called a state of emergency on Black Friday, March 2013. Locked down the country. Brought interest rates down to zero. And dumped in what? $3 or $4 trillion to artificially prop up the economy. And then Biden kept it going, pumping in even more. So they've created this horror story that's not going to be fixed. But they're going to come up with a new game. And again, I think it's going to be, and look what Bitcoin's doing since Trump got in there. It's up over 40%. So I think the future's from dirty cash to digital trash.
So this leaves a few unanswered questions going into the new year. We've also got two wars that are brewing, one of them potentially nuclear. And we're told that the war's going great in Ukraine. We just need to give them more weapons. We need to get behind it a little bit more to get a stronger negotiation position so that when Trump comes in, this is what General Kellogg is saying on the media, that when Trump comes in, they'll have more leverage, Gerald. Well, here's the situation right now in Ukraine. This is a recruitment video from Zelensky's office. Let's have a look.
Oh yeah, nightlife citizens. It's good to see you on the dance floor here at Black Milk. Take a drink and feel our groove.
So, Gerald, they're not exactly lining up in Ukraine to go to the front line. We thought we saw the end of trench warfare in World War I, but apparently not. So nobody's addressing this. Everybody has played a role in it. Trump has played a role. Biden has played a huge role. The Obama administration's played a massive role in creating this situation that we're now on the precipice of a nuclear war with a major nuclear power, the Russian Federation. And is what you're hearing right now, is it serious enough? I think the Trump administration could have really put Biden in the corner after these ATACMS missiles and Storm Shadows were fired off last week. But I don't see that happening. I'm trying to work out what's going on. Do you have any ideas on this strategy that, or lack of strategy that we're witnessing right now, Gerald?
This is your cover of your Trends Journal. back in 2014. See how happy that guy looks? It's the United States overthrow of the democratically elected government of Viktor Yanukovych in Ukraine, brought by the United States. And here's the article. This is written by Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, former Assistant Treasury Secretary under Ronald Reagan. Washington is driving the world to the final war. World hegemony is not a right America has earned. And down the bottom, it keeps going on. Washington concluded that Russia needed to be confronted with or distracted by problems that would leave the Russian government less confident or able to counter Washington's aggression elsewhere. Ukraine presented the perfect opportunity for Washington to advance its hegemonic agenda. In a speech at the National Press Club last December, and anybody could look this up, December 2013, Assistant Secretary of State Victoria Nuland boasted that Washington had invested $5 billion in non-governmental organizations for the purpose of the NGOs to, quote, teach democracy in Ukraine. The United States overthrew the government. There's no way that Ukraine is going to win this war. If Napoleon, who left Poland with 420,000 troops to attack Moscow in 1812 and came back with 10,000, if Germany, who launched Hitler's Operation Barbarossa, killed some 25 million Russians, and according to the John F. Kennedy's speech to graduating students at American University in June of 1963, Kennedy said they lost their factories, their farms, their homes, their land from the equivalent of Chicago East. And they were the first ones to defeat the Russians, the Germans rather. What makes you think Ukraine is going to be able to defeat Russia? No way, no how. They have very, very advanced technology. They are becoming a self-sustaining economy. They have the human and natural resources they need to be self-sustaining. Because when all those companies left, Biden's words were, when their war began back in 2022, February 24th, Biden said, we're going to punish Putin. He didn't punish Putin. They became more self-sustaining. All those businesses that left, the Russian people took over. So going back, we are on the verge of nuclear war. They're warning us. And now you got these clown boys like Macron and Starmer and Macron, Starmer, and Boris Johnson and these other people shooting their mouth off that we need, and the Americans, more weapons to keep fighting this war, the proxy war. We're at war with Russia. If I asked you, I said, listen, man, give me some hand grenades. I want to go blow the guy's brains out across the street. And you gave them to me. You're an accessory to the crime. So we are on the verge of nuclear annihilation. World War I is not ancient history. We have crazy people, demonic people that are running the world. They're demonic.
And I just got back from a visit to Hungary, to Budapest last week, Gerald, and everybody there, every single government agency we spoke to, every single military person, they said, we have been demanding and wanting a ceasefire and negotiations for the longest time. And they're very worried, Slovakians, Hungarians, the people who are actually on the front line, Gerald, they're beyond concerned at this point.
Yep.
Because they stand the most to lose from an expanded conflict. But the further away you get from this front line, the more showboating, the more rhetoric, the more strident the threats, the pontification about how Russia's collapsing. I don't know how many times I hear this on a daily basis from the Times here in London. Russia's collapsing. The military's in free fall. They even said, believe it or not, on the Times, Rupert Murdoch's Times Radio, they said that Russia is so desperate they're sending human waves, like in the Korean War. Human waves.
Yeah.
So the propaganda is something that even Stalin's Pravda couldn't get away with back in their heyday, Gerald.
Yeah.
But that's where things are right now, in the pockets of intelligentsia that are making the major decisions.
I know. Again, the media, I call them prostitutes. They're media whores that get paid to put out by their corporate pimps and their government whoremasters. You mentioned Murdoch. Look at all the people that Trump brought into his cabinet and his office that were clowns on Fox TV. And by the way, I used to be on Fox a lot at one time. But when I came out against the wars, they don't want me on anymore. So they're prostitutes. And what you said in Hungary is true, but then you got to look at what they say in Lithuania, Estonia, and Latvia. And they're very pro-war. You got that little clown from the defense secretary in Estonia. What is it, a country like 1.5 million people? Saying we have to build our defense up to fight Russia? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? And by the way, this is important too. Not in Ukraine, but what Israel is doing. Israel's nothing more than a bully. I mentioned 1.5 million or something in Estonia. Oh, they're beating up Hamas over there in Gaza. Oh, Gaza, a place the size of Philadelphia. Oh, and Gaza has those F-16s and tanks. Oh, they don't have anything. Hamas doesn't have anything. Oh, but they're beating them. Oh, now they bombed the hell out of Beirut. And now a phony ceasefire. Oh, Beirut, a country the size of Connecticut, 5.7 million people. They don't have the military to fight Israel. Now let's fast forward. You listen to Netanyahu's speech when they allegedly had a ceasefire agreement with Lebanon. He goes right into, we have to cut off the head of the octopus, Iran. Yep. Iran. Oh, country in 91 million? Oh, the Persians? Very advanced scientifically, technologically. Israel, a country in 9 million. And when you take out the Arab population, 7 million. 7 million against 91 million? Who's going to win? No way. No way, no how could Israel defeat Iran. Not even close. But again, going back to my fear, there's a thing called the Samson option. S-A-M-S-O-N. If Israel loses, they go nuclear. They have between 200 to 400 nuclear warheads. And that's my greatest concern.
Yeah, that is a great concern. And if that threat was to materialize, what would Washington do? Would Washington be able to restrain their great friend and ally, Israel, in the Middle East, or would all bets be off at that point? I'm not sure I know the answer to that, but
I know the answer is right there in the elections in the United States. Whether it was Harris or Trump. They keep spewing out the bullshit line, Israel has the right to defend itself. Oh, they have the right to kill anybody anywhere as well. Oh, yeah, Syria, they just killed a bunch of people. They can bomb anybody if they want. The government's controlled by Israel more than the people of the United States control it. The United States will do everything they can to support Israel. And again, it'll mean nothing because, again, hadn't won a war since World War II. And again, wouldn't have won that without Russia. So the United States support of Israel will make absolutely no difference at all against Iran.
Yeah, and I often wonder when we do get past this current impasse, if we get past in one piece. I hope we do. I hope nuclear war doesn't break out before January 20th or after that as well. But the thing I'm most worried about is the politics, Gerald, is the belief sets that people have. That even with this, you've just outlined this scenario with Iran, which I think any sane military person can look at the balance of force and resolve there to know Iran has a huge advantage. That Russia has a massive advantage in Europe against Europe and NATO and Ukraine, but that somehow the thinking how long will it take the thinking to adjust in America to become sort of au fait with that new reality? Because that's the thing that's frightening to me. And it gets back to that point you said before, Gerald, censorship. The censorship is hugely damaging if you don't have access to seeing what the other side is saying. Nobody's interested in what Putin or Lavrov is saying. They don't care. Or the Iranian president, supreme leader or whatnot. They don't care. But you have to know. You have to know exactly what they're saying to know how to make your counter moves, or to know if it's time to come to the negotiation table and save, 1 billion lives. But that's not happening. That, to me, Gerald, is one of the most frightening things. And it does come down to something even so basic as this this urge to censor foreign media that is going wild in America and in Europe right now. But I'll give you the floor for the final bit here. But go ahead, Gerald.
Well, again, there is no media. Journalism is dead. And as I said, you're mentioning, why don't people know about this or that? And how they feature a little clown boy like Boris Johnson, a nobody. The guy's out of office. He's a piece of crap. And they don't put the truth up. And it's very sad. It's heartbreaking. So to me, what I suggest to everybody is get in the best shape that you can, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, because you're in the fight for your life. And it's up to we, the people, to change this. When they had I used to be on Hong Kong TV back in 2019 when there were protests going on. And there were out of a city of 7.5 million people, over 1 million people were taking to the streets in protest of what China was doing in overtaking Hong Kong. And I take a break. We're on 20 minutes with the guy. And I say, Frank, so what's going on? Mr. Celente, we're not going to stop. We're not going to let the Chinese take over. Again, 7.5 million people, 1 million people taking to the streets. You can't get 1 million people out of 345 million people in America to take to the streets for peace. Where are they? And by the way, China ended the protests in Hong Kong when they launched the COVID war on their Chinese Lunar New Year, the year of the rat, in January 2020. That was the end of it. Everybody, and there were protests going on, by the way, all over the world. It was one of our top trends for 2020, New World Disorder. There were the yellow vests in France, South Africa, Algeria. Millions of people were taken to the streets all over the world in protest of lack of basic living standards, government corruption, crime, violence, etc. When the COVID war happened, you can't go out, can't protest. So going back, 7.5 million people, 1 million people taking to the streets. You can't get 1 million people taking to the streets. And that's what has to happen. Yeah, we talk about the billionaires, right? The billionaires, they run the country. Hey, Musk, how about donating $1 billion to Occupy Peace? It's chump change for you. You're worth almost $1 trillion. Hey, how about Bezos? How about $1 billion? How about Buffett? I have 3 of the most historic buildings in America. It's on the only corner in America with pre-Revolutionary War stone buildings. And Kingston was the first capital of New York State before the British burnt it down. One of my tenants was Warren Buffett's son. He has a Novo Foundation. I had Ralph Nader up here, top people. Not a penny for peace. Where are the billionaires? Where they all got lockjaw? Or they hang, I'm stupid. How dumb can I be? See, these billionaires are smarter than all of us. Because when they die, they're going to make these huge, huge coffins and take all that money with them. Look at the little freak show. Where's Gates and Zuckerberg? Not a penny for peace, because they're all pieces of crap. Not a penny for peace. You can't do it without money. End of story. I just told you about the elections in America, country after country. Without the dough behind you, you go nowhere. We need people you ask what could happen. It can't happen until the people unite for peace. That's the way I see it.
Well, we do have some big challenges ahead of us. I'm very encouraged, although Fox News isn't too happy to see all these students that have gone onto the streets to protest on behalf of Palestinian human rights.
Oh.
We couldn't pay people to be anti-war protesters, and then all of a sudden this manifested in the last year. Gen Z that everybody wrote off, Gerald. Ever said, oh, Gen Zers, they don't get it. They're too woke. They're this and that. I was shocked to see how quickly these kids picked this up, and we really became incredibly well informed on the nuances of the issue. So I've got some hope in that respect. Gerald, I don't know if you share the same optimism, but there are sparks of I think some positive developments there. Again,
yes and no, in the sense that woman that Trump picked for United States, what was it? UN ambassador, Stefanik.
Elise
Stefanik. She was the one that got the presidents of like Harvard and Princeton, University of Pennsylvania, rather, fired because they didn't stop the protests. Now the data just came out because of all the restrictions that colleges have put on the protesters. The protests are way down now. They're way down. Yeah, they see that, again, it was like my generation during the Vietnam War. It was my generation that was taking to the streets, but they're not taking to the streets now. You know why? They were taking to the streets back then because we were getting drafted. That's why. But they don't care about war now because they're not getting drafted. My generation was lockjaw. Where are all the peace songs? Where are they? Where's Dylan? Where are all these people? Nowhere. Zero. Nada. Nothing. So again, you can't do it without support. It's the way of the world. It's the system of the world. If you're not at the top, you're going nowhere. And again, it's one big club, as George Carlin said, and you ain't in it. And that's who's running the world, the one big club. The banksters, the drug dealers, the people called Big Pharma, high tech, and the military-industrial complex. You've mentioned before about all the money that the politicians get. So without the money, it ain't going to happen, as I see it.
And I was a little bit concerned as well to see Donald Trump's pick for Attorney General come out saying that students protesting in favor of Palestinians should be deported, should be investigated and deported, plus what you said about Congressman at the time, Stefanik. These are anti-First Amendment, anti-constitutional measures being imposed by people in high positions in the next government. That to me is something to be worried about.
Yeah. Again, Trump came out against the protesters too, the college protesters. So anyway, again, the old saying goes, money talks, bullshit walks.
Yeah, certainly that's one of the big themes in this election. I think if it may be, Gerald, we can crowdfund for $101 million for peace and send that to the Trump super PAC. Is that what it takes? 101 million?
Yeah, you send it to Occupy Peace. And yeah, we do everything we can. You know, I went for these things cost me a lot of money to put on these rallies. I pay this number of the speakers, the sound, the security, and on and on. You know, I do it. I put my money where my heart is, and my heart's at peace. And that, by the way, that's why I bought these buildings. I was looking to leave the country, and I didn't know where I wanted to go. And I did a gig in Berlin back in 2012, and I never been to Berlin. But I spent a lot of time in Paris. Matter of fact, today my old girlfriend Marie-Pierre called me up to wish me, the best. And her brother Francois used to be the left shoulder of Jacques Chirac and Mitterrand. So I spent a lot of time there. And by the way, my close combat teacher, John Perkins, may he rest in peace, used to work out with the guys at Palais Élysée. So I knew Paris pretty well. I'd never been to Berlin. And they're showing me around. Here's East Berlin, blah, blah. This is 2012. And then in the afternoon, I'm having a cup of beer, sitting outside. The sidewalks are wide enough for cafe tables, 4 and 5 deep, place to walk, a place to bicycle. Looking across the street, median, beautiful trees, and I see a beautiful German building, maybe 1880s, at the same height, all new construction. And I realized everywhere they took me, I saw the same thing. Beautiful, beautiful German buildings, then all new construction. I said to myself, Berlin was grander than Paris before it was bombed out. And in the 1930s, the Germans, with the height of Western civilization scientifically, technologically, culturally, I said, why didn't the people stop this? We're losing. Where were the people to take to the streets and say, stop, we had enough? Where were the people? I came back on April 27th, left on April 17th. I was there for 10 days. And there was a for sale sign on the Franz Rogan House, 1750 building, one of the most historic four corners in America. I have a building right down the street from it. And I bought that building. And I bought the other 3. They were up for sale. I bought them because the seeds of democracy were sown here. I said, I can't leave this country. I'm only me because I'm a Napolitano, born in the Bronx, born to be free. Love it or leave it. No, you leave it. You don't tell me what to do. I went to jury duty here before this, this is what inspired me before this happened. And the guy said to the jury people, he said, you see that picture over my shoulder? He said, that's John Jay, the first Supreme Court judge of America. He was a judge over here. The Constitution that was written for Kingston, when it was the capital of New York State, it was written for New York State, rather. It was written in Kingston when Kingston was the capital. He said over 70% of America's Constitution comes from the Constitution that was written here. That's why I bought these buildings. And that's why I launched Occupy Peace. So I do everything I can to bring back the spirit of our founding fathers, which 3 words now are dirty words in American politics: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. They're gone. And so that's why I own these buildings, and that's why I fight for peace.
Gerald Celente, Trends Journal. Really appreciate you joining us for the Sunday Wire. We've got a lot to think about. A lot of people got some time over the holidays, over this Thanksgiving week, of course, just passed, and Christmas coming up. I think you've raised a lot of important issues, Gerald. I hope that people can reflect on a lot of these things, because I think they're fundamental, not to this country, but to the world too. And lots at stake right now. Lots at stake.
Yeah, yeah. And again, the Trends Journal, you go to trendsjournal.com. There's no magazine like it. And it's only $2.50 a week, 56 cents a week. So we're giving people everything we can to help them prepare, prevail, and prosper in these times ahead. So thank you so much for what you do. And thank you so much for having me on.
No, it's our pleasure and our honor as well. I really appreciate you, Gerald, and I know our listeners and our viewers do as well. So we'll leave some details to the Trends Journal as well in the show description, everybody. So have a look there. I encourage you to look at this publication. It's well worth your while. Thank you, Gerald. Take care. All the best.
All the best to you as well.
And there he goes, ladies and gentlemen. That is Gerald Celente. Again, some strong words and a lot to think about. What we're going to do right now is we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to have an overdrive segment, and we're going to hit some of those stories that we mentioned in the intro. So stay with us. We'll be right back.